So in chapter 112 of the One Punch Man manga, Homeless Emperor was finally fully revealed, a character who had only been teased before that with a few panels here and there. And while he is pretty important to this arc, considering that he's a Monster Association executive and a dragon-level monster, his overall being represents way more than just a villain for this arc. He's more or less a device to introduce us to the main overarching threat of the entire series. But in order for me to really go into this, you guessed it, I'm going to have to go into some webcomic spoilers, so you can either drink the Kool-Aid and go to the dark side, or you can keep yourself pure for the manga marriage if you want. But yeah, it's going to be spoilers after this. Before we get into this, I want to give a shout out to my friend DH Animation's webcomic Dog. If you're a fan of battle manga, but looking for something with more of an independent, contemporary edge to it that appeals to our Gen Z and millennial demographic, then check out this webcomic, which has already amassed its very own cult following.
If you want to read it, the link is in the description. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
So as the story progresses, likely in the next chapter, 113, we're going to find out the origin of Homeless Emperor. And this is much needed, more so than the other monsters, because he doesn't really look like a monster, especially the ones that we've been introduced to so far in this series, and definitely doesn't look so much like the other executives. Because he just looks like a normal dude, but he just has, crazy light sphere abilities. So as you guessed it, Homeless Emperor was just a homeless dude. But before that, he was a salaryman. And one day at an office party, his boss asked him to dance naked, but this led him to being accused of harassment, and he was fired as a result. And then you could guess what happened after this. He became misanthropic, became homeless as a result of that. But rather than having harsh feelings for his boss or resentment of that towards his colleagues, he turned that towards the Earth and what humanity had did. I mean, he actually says that all of this and what he observed was just a deviation from the ecosystem that Mother Earth had built up. That sounds kind of familiar, right? Well, we're going to get into that. So, apparently, he just got to the point of where he just wanted to take his own life so that he could just be closer to Mother Earth and coexist with it in some way. But before he had the chance, this mysterious being entity thing showed up, and it claims that its name is God. So let me clarify that this being entity is not the God of the One Punch Man universe. He's not like the creator of all things. He's just some being that goes by this name. And he's not like any religious bearing on him or anything. It's just the name of this character. If you want to put a lowercase g on him, go ahead. So after this being God shows up, he agrees with Homeless Emperor that the humans are foolish and what they have done to Earth is wrong and that they all need to die. And that he's going to grant him power to do that. So, as you guessed, he's the one who gave Homeless Emperor those crazy energy projection abilities that we saw on display in Chapter 112. And I guess it's just implied that Homeless Emperor's hatred for humanity of what they have done to the Earth, along with his willingness to just straight up take himself out to just be able to coexist with the Earth, was more than enough to prove himself to God to be one of his disciples, I guess. So now let's go back to the deviation from Mother Earth line that Homeless Emperor said and why it sounds so familiar. So if we go back to the very first chapter of One Punch Man, we'll remember Vaccine Man, because its backstory was more or less lining up with exactly what Homeless Emperor is talking about here. So Vaccine Man said that he exists because of the pollution that humans have done to the environment, and that the Earth is a single living organism, and that humans are a disease and killing it. And that the will of the Earth gave birth to him, so that he may destroy humanity and their insidious civilization. So, this is all making sense, right? I mean, it sounds exactly like what Homeless Emperor was talking about and what God was talking about. So let's go deeper, because it in fact does go further than this. So remember Homeless Emperor's abilities? He threw those weird energy spheres. They look very similar to what Homeless Emperor could do, right? Well, it even goes further than that, because Murata, the illustrator of One Punch Man, said something very interesting on a live stream last year. He said that the energy spheres that Chose uses, the one that we saw him use after he became a monster in the Super Fight tournament, are the same as Vaccine Man's and Homeless Emperor's. So is this all connected? I think so. I think that the will of the Earth that Vaccine Man was talking about in Chapter 1 was none other than the being God that we saw give the same abilities to Homeless Emperor. Now, granted, Homeless Emperor doesn't have the ability of flight the way that Vaccine Man does. I mean, he didn't at least have that in the webcomic. He might have it in the manga for all we know, because that's been a recurring theme. They just keep buffing all of the villains and the heroes, so he may fly, he may not, but regardless, the Light Sphere abilities and the hatred for humanity and what they have done to the Earth is all lining up here, and I think it's more than just a coincidence. So as I said, this could all just mean that Homeless Emperor is just a device to introduce us to the main overarching antagonist of the entire series. I mean, this guy's name is God, so it makes sense that he's probably the end-all, be-all of the series. I mean, there's nothing really above God, just in the hierarchy of things, not even talking about religion or anything. And going back to Vaccine Man, that could be tying this all together and showing us that God has been set up since the very first chapter of the series, which would be awesome, and of course, it would be typical brilliance of one who we all know is a brilliant writer and mangaka in his own right. But I'm gonna go more into the character of God and his overall effect on the future of this series in a video that I'm gonna be making soon, and you know who is probably gonna face him eventually and what might happen as a result of said fight. But until then, if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and let me know what you think about all this. Is there credence to the connection of all these characters? And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. I also have a Patreon, gives you access to a weekly Q&A video. And just have a great day, guys. I'll see you in the next one.